Welcome back to Cinema Recaps. Today, I'll be introducing a 2014 comedy, fantasy, horror film called Life After Death. Warning, spoilers ahead, watch carefully! Beth loves hiking, so she goes on a trip by herself. In the next scene, her boyfriend Zach is buying tissues for her funeral as she was bitten by a venomous snake and died during the trip. Zach and his family arrive at Beth's house for the funeral, where they are greeted by Beth's father, Mr. Maury. Her mother, Jeannie, is overwhelmed with grief, and Zach feels awkward when he meets Mr. Levin. After the funeral, Zach's family returns home, and he becomes increasingly depressed from missing Beth. In the following days, Zach returns to Beth's house, where he finds her mother packing up her belongings. He plays chess with Maury until 3 a.m., sharing about the troubles in their relationship before Beth died. Maury advises him to remember the good things about her. Beth's family is kind to him, and Jeannie even gives him Beth's scarf before he leaves. The next day, Zach returns, but finds no one at home. His family grows concerned about his unusual behavior and suggests he see a doctor. When he goes back to Beth's house, Zach hears music and voices inside, but no one answers the door. He looks through the window and sees Beth inside, which shocks him, and he calls her name, pounding on the door. Suddenly, Kyle appears, tells him not to disturb the family, and leads him out of the area. That night, Zach sneaks into Beth's house and meets Maury, who tries to stop him. He suspects Beth isn't dead, and that her family is playing a prank on him. After pushing Maury aside, Zach sees Jeannie hiding Beth in the closet, sparking a family argument as they struggle to explain the truth without letting Beth know she's dead. Beth is confused as she doesn't remember anything, not even the events leading up to her death. At home, Zach tells his parents that Beth's death was just a joke. The next day, he goes for a health checkup. Later, while visiting Beth's grave, he finds a large dug-up hole. Back at Beth's house, Zach confronts Maury about it. And finally, Maury admits that Beth did die, but somehow came back. However, he doesn't care about the reason since he has his daughter back. Still, Zach finds it hard to believe and thinks it's just a trick. Beth dug herself out and returned home as a zombie. Jeannie sees it as a miracle, like in the Bible saying Beth was resurrected. When Beth appears, she kisses Zach as if nothing happened, then pulls him upstairs, even though he's reluctant. In the attic, they have an awkward conversation. Zach is terrified while Beth seems confused by everyone's strange behavior. She doesn't remember anything, including going hiking alone or breaking up with Zach. She thinks she has a test the next day and worries about it. When Zach makes her upset with his questions, he reassures her by saying she's the only one he thinks about. They confess their love for each other and decide to leave the house for some private time. However, Beth's parents disapprove of them going out during the day, suggesting they stay at home and swim in the family pool. At night, her parents still don't want them to leave. Beth waits for Zach at the pool, saying she's anxious about the test, so he sits down beside her and notices a bite mark on her thigh. Jokingly, Zach asks if she wants to eat him, but Beth misinterprets it, saying she doesn't, especially with her parents nearby. Right after, she forgets what she was talking about and jumps into the pool. The next day, Zach has a loving phone call with Beth and then talks to his brother Kyle, who is cleaning his gun, apologizing for saying Beth was alive. Kyle still doesn't believe him. Zach goes to the kitchen, where his parents are having breakfast, happy that he looks better, but still suspicious of his behavior. On his way to Beth's house, Zach runs into an old mailman he hasn't seen in a while. At the Slocum's house, Beth acts even stranger, and Zach advises Maury to tell her she's dead. But Maury fears it would only confuse and upset her, asking Zach to keep it a secret if he wants to keep seeing her. Zach agrees. Beth wants to go hiking with Zach, and although Maury thinks it's a bad idea, he lets them go. In the car, Beth starts getting close to Zach, so they stop at a playground and lie on the sand in the sunlight. Back at home, Beth's parents notice a large burn mark on her cheek and panic. Maury scolds them, saying this is the last time Beth goes outside, while Jeannie tries to soothe him, saying she'll cover it with makeup, frustrating Maury as he feels she doesn't support him. Zach continues discussing telling Beth the truth, but she startles them when she says she already knows, though she's only talking about her test. They pretend that's the reason for their argument and Zach leaves. Before Zach goes, Maury stops him, telling him not to come back. However, that night, Zach sneaks into the house and secretly takes Beth out. She falls off the roof but is unharmed. Zach takes her to the beach, where he surprises her with a song narrating everything that happened to her. But Beth doesn't like it, starts screaming, loses control, and asks him what he's doing to her, then wrecks the lifeguard tower. Zach fails to calm Beth as she becomes increasingly disoriented and weak while the lifeguard tower blazes behind them. She cries for help, and Zach takes her back to the car, but her behavior gets even more bizarre. One moment, she breaks the car window. The next, she asks what happened to it. In the car, the The soft jazz on the radio finally soothes her. When they return home, she says she likes the song, then kisses Zach. He goes up to the attic with her. There, Beth plays jazz on the player and starts undressing. Zach notices mud smeared on her bedroom walls. She pulls him to lie down on the floor, but when Zach sees the autopsy scar on her body, he panics and bolts out of there as fast as he can. She suddenly jumps off the roof and asks where he's going. He lies and runs away. Later, Zach enters a diner and asks the waiter to change the jazz they're playing. Erica appears and greets him. It takes Zach a moment to remember her, the daughter of his mom's friend. When he recalls, he invites Erica to sit with him. They have a pleasant lunch and start talking about Beth. Zach shares that he once almost wished Beth would stay dead, frightening Erica. As they talk, a cook in the diner acts strangely, and Zach asks Erica if she's noticed more people acting oddly recently. She says no, so they continue talking about Beth. Erica advises him to move on, as she had to when her grandmother passed away. Zach pays and leaves the diner, but as he gets into his car, he doesn't see Beth running toward him and accidentally hits her. When he gets out, he sees Beth trapped under the car, so he quickly backs up. Beth gets up as if nothing happened, scaring the onlookers. They argue for a while until Erica comes out of the diner and calls him, making Beth angry. Zach introduces them, and when Erica hears Beth's name, she asks if there's another Beth, which only irritates Beth more. Erica gets chummy with Zach, prompting Beth to grab her, and Zach has to separate them. Beth demands an explanation, so Zach takes her to her grave, telling her she died a week ago and dug herself out. Beth doesn't believe it, saying her parents would have told her if that were true. She asks how she can be both dead and alive, and Zach explains that her parents think she might have been resurrected or is possibly a zombie. He tells her he can't be with her anymore because he's scared, making her angrier, and she pushes him down and steals his car. That night, Zach returns home and hears gunshots inside. He enters to find Kyle in a panic, pointing a gun at their dead grandfather, who has also come back. Their parents try to calm Kyle, but he continues to point the gun around, confused and scared. Zach tells them that it's all real, but that he's not one of them. Their grandfather wants to go to the attic, and Zach tells them to let him go since they love attics, just like Beth. His family is close to breaking down when the doorbell rings, and two more people who've returned enter, possibly the previous owners of the house. Zach tells his family they need to get out, but Kyle shoots one of the returnees. The bullet has no effect, and police sirens are heard outside. The family watches a returned newscaster on TV, and Zach's dad comments that the emergency broadcast has finally ended. Maury calls Zach, saying he's waiting outside. Before Zach can leave, the power cuts out. Maury tells him to get in the car because Zach needs to tell Beth she's not dead, and that it's all his fault for breaking his promise. Zach thinks Perline can fix everything since she's from Haiti, where they create zombies, and makes Maury give him her address, but he has to talk to Beth first. Maury drives them to a house where Zach sees his wrecked car. As they walk in, Beth appears, stepping through the window, chasing someone outside, and eating them like a proper zombie. Jeannie enters as Beth returns, asking her what she did. Beth's senses have deteriorated significantly since Zach last saw her, but Maury still wants him to tell her they'll be together forever. Zach asks Maury for Perline's address, but Jeannie gives it to him instead. Zach runs outside, gets in his car, and Beth follows him, climbing in as he drives off. They argue about the man she ate, and she asks what he expected, as she's a zombie, and zombies eat people. She then turns on the radio to play smooth jazz. When they arrive at Perline's, Zach leaves Beth in the car and goes inside to meet the Haitian woman. Unfortunately, she's not there. Her cousin tells Zach it's absurd that he thinks she's involved with the zombies just because she's Haitian, and reveals that she quit working for the Slocums because Maury harassed her. On his way back to the car, Zach encounters another zombie. Maury arrives to retrieve Beth, knocking Zach out with a shotgun and taking Beth home. The following morning, Zach wakes up with a zombie standing over him. He rushes to the car and drives home, where he finds a pile of burned bodies and assumes they're his parents and brother. Zach quickly packs a bag and leaves, stopping at a store where he hears gunfire outside. He grabs as many canned goods as he can and drives to Beth's house to get her. He finds Maury's car splattered with blood and the house in complete disarray. Following Jeannie's voice to the kitchen, he sees her feeding Beth, who's restrained, a piece of her hand, telling Zach that Beth ate Maury. Zach bandages her wound, reassuring her that everything will be okay. Alone with Beth, they argue a bit, but Zach convinces her that he still wants to be with her and suggests they go hiking together. Beth asks if he's afraid of her, and he replies that she's all he has but tells her not to eat him. She gets up, and as they're about to leave, Kyle appears outside, ready to shoot her. Zach stops him and asks about the burned bodies, to which Kyle tells him their parents are alive and staying with the Levins. Kyle apologizes for not believing him about Beth and says he's now part of the resistance against zombies. When Beth frees herself, Kyle is about to shoot her again. Zach convinces him to let him take Beth for a hike. Kyle hands him the gun, telling him to shoot her in the head to end her suffering, then meet him at the Levins' house. By 4 p.m., Zach and Beth are hiking on a trail and stop to enjoy the view. He knows what he has to do and tries to say goodbye, thanking her for coming back and giving him a second chance. Zach pulls out the gun and tells her that he will always love her. When she says it back and turns around, he shoots her in the head, her body tumbling down into the ravine. Later, Zach arrives at the Levins' house, now heavily boarded up. Mr. Levin opens the door for him, and his parents rush over, relieved to see him safe. They show him that Erica is alive, though traumatized but okay. Zach tells Kyle that he killed Zombie Beth. Then he tells everyone they need to get to a safer location. Suddenly, the power returns, and the news reports announce that everything has returned to normal. After some time, Zach visits Beth and Maury's graves, saying a final farewell. Then he gets into the car with his parents and Erica. He asks Erica out on a date, and she accepts. They drive away from the cemetery, smiling. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos like this. Thank you for watching.